Pacific Seafood Shellfish Division is a fully integrated division where it takes about 2.5 to 3 years on average to get a shellfish from the hatchery to the table to the consumer. So we've got second, third, and fourth generation family members working for our company. It gives us team members who are committed to excellence in shellfish farming.
Pacific Seafood's Shellfish Division operates in 4 states, with facilities in Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii.
The importance of that is the diversity of the grounds that you farm, the products you can grow in particular areas. There's different growing techniques that you can utilize in different areas that work better.
At Pacific Shellfish, we grow 3 types of shellfish: manila clams, mussels, and oysters, using various culture methods. Whatever type of shellfish we grow, oysters, clams, or mussels, their life cycle begins in the hatchery.
We raise Pacific oysters, Kumamoto oysters, manila clams, and Mediterranean mussels.
For clams, single oysters, or clusters of oysters, and for mussels, the nursery process is similar. The larvae attach themselves to cult shell and develop into spat, seeds that develop into baby oysters, clams, or mussels. At the Quilcene hatchery, oysters are the main focus of the operation.
We bring in parents from the wild, which are called broodstock. We feed them algae, and we condition them to produce eggs and sperm, which we then collect to create larvae, and set them on shell bags or grow them as single seed to sell to customers.
So all the oysters are born and created here at the Quilcene hatchery, then are set onto all those shells and sent out to the farms to be raised. 2 or 3 years later, they get harvested, they go through production, sold to market, and then the shell gets bagged up and sent back to the hatchery. So it's a very sustainable way of raising oysters.
At any given time, we have millions of mouths to feed. There's millions of oyster larvae, millions of oyster seed as well. They're all very hungry all the time. We look at them every day, we check them in the microscope. We want to make sure that their shell is getting bigger. That tells us that they're eating well.
Oysters destined as singles are grown a bit differently than those headed for shucking.
For the single seed, we grind up the mother shell into what looks like a fine powder, like flour. In miniature, it mimics what would happen in the wild of them setting on the large shell. But because it's so small, only one larva can fit per shell, and they grow up as singles.
For mussels at this larval stage, the process does not involve the use of shells.
Those attach to a mussel rope when they go through their metamorphosis. The oyster raising process is very sustainable. Shellfish clean the water. Once they're in the wild, they require very little input from humans, no fertilizers, no watering.
Sustainable and grown the way nature intended, with no interference from us.
The process in which we raise oysters is a non-GMO way, right? There's no anything genetically taken from any kind of other animal and put into the oysters that we raise, or the clams or the mussels.
It's a very rewarding job getting to watch things grow.
Oysters headed for shucking or the singles process are now mature enough for turning over to nature, so they can grow and mature for 6 to 8 months. One of 2 methods are used to grow the animals from this point on bottom or off bottom. Those destined for on bottom growth are distributed by oyster farmers for a lengthy stay in nature's nursery. The majority of the oysters farmed in Willapa and the bays in Washington and Oregon are grown on the sea bottom. The culch bags are opened, their contents spread around the bottom of the bay, where they will remain for 2 to 2.5 years. 3 methods are used for growing off-bottom oysters: SEPA baskets, flip bags, and long lines.
It allowed us to utilize ground that would not produce a good, fat, healthy oyster, whereas you could move up into the inner tide a little higher and grow really a very nice oyster.
We put up 10,300 lines. Is our biggest amount of lines that we've ever put up last year. And we're looking at some of the product right now that we're standing next to.
You get a higher yield per oyster shell. Labor's more intense. Not all oyster ground is created equal. Some does not lend itself to ground culture. On the long lines, they tend to stay put.
We also do what we call SEPA baskets, which is a floating basket method where the oysters roll up and down with the tide and keep them well shaped, and they grow very rapidly that way also.
The tube shape of the basket is designed to create a tumbling effect, which develops a well-cupped, pristine single Kumamoto oyster with a clean shell and high meat content. The flip bag has much the same effect, also producing quality oyster singles.
Our new dredges is a new implement, all the new aluminum dredges we got. You can come out here in any weather, blowing 60 miles an hour, doesn't matter. 4 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot seas, it doesn't matter. Just come out here and dredge your load and feel safe.
The newer dredges, they're bigger, they're faster, they're more efficient as far as fuel consumption. It allows you to get on your beds at different times.
All right.
Drawing a mere 12 to 18 inches of water, a one-of-a-kind, lightweight aluminum harvester for high tide harvesting of off-bottom oysters has been developed by Pacific Seafood. For some on-bottom harvesting, we use an improved dredging method.
We mechanically harvest our oysters, with our dredges, our dredge bags, and then we manually harvest our oysters with tubs, picking tubs, and that takes a big team of people to come out and hand pick all the tubs. Typically, you run into right around anywhere from 60 to 100 tubs picked a day.
Manual oyster harvesting takes lots of back-breaking elbow grease, a real labor of love, filling 17-bushel tubs at whatever hours are dictated by tides, weather, or changes in a customer's order. How else to explain a harvester's dedication?
And you get a joy out of, harvesting oysters and giving something to somebody that, they're going to eat and enjoy, something that we have a sustainable thing going here, with fresh, clean bay and good oysters.
For 30 straight days of rain, different wind storms and whatnot, 60, 70 mile an hour winds that our team members go out and put themselves out there, but it's because they enjoy the company and they enjoy oyster farming.
They need to care about what we're doing because of the heart and soul that's put into the product. There's no better way to say it,
One of the ways we ensure the freshest possible shellfish is with continual icing from the first moments after harvesting until they are delivered to our processing facility. Ice and chilled water are utilized throughout processing. Our shellfish are harvested, shipped to processing, and ready for customers to eat as quickly as possible. And that means we consistently deliver the highest quality, freshest seafood available on the market today. For non-single oysters, hand shuckers are the first stop in the process of getting the oysters prepared for shipping to the customer. Oysters go from shucking operation into the packing operation, where they're washed and packed in the appropriate container based on their size. They are then shipped to markets all over the country.
The clam process is very short-lived here in Quilcene. We only grow them to day 3, and then they're shipped to Kona for the rest of their grow out.
We are a clam hatchery. It's taken care of in our larval tanks for approximately another 18 days. And then we get them into our setting phase where they are put out into these downwellers, set, and they continue to grow for about another 2-3 months. We have the ability to draw deep sea water from 4,000 feet down, which is nutrient rich.
Which, when combined with 300 days a year of Hawaiian sunshine, provides the perfect environment for growing the algae that the clams feed on.
So we grow our clams and then we ship them off to customers from Canada all the way down to California.
And with our traceability system, we can tell exactly where and when our seafood was raised, harvested, and processed. Just one way of ensuring consistent, high-quality shellfish protein. Pacific or Kumamoto oysters or clams. Pacific Seafood supplies one of the world's best protein sources and does it all sustainably, taking care to nurture the fragile habitat where the animals grow and where our team members and their families live. As we discovered at a recent trade show in Sacramento, California, our customers seem to agree. Pacific Seafood lives up to its commitments.
We use about 52 tons of seafood every month, so we can't live without Pacific Seafood. They're very reliable too, so we love working with them.
They were delicious, delicious. I've never even had them this big, actually. And my husband used to work in Santa Barbara, so he worked for like a harbor that brought in all the fish, and it doesn't even, this tops it.
And they are delicious.
Yeah, they're really good.
Are
you guys big oyster fans? Or?
Yeah, well now I am.
A lot of our fresh seafood comes from Pacific Seafood. Our barbecued oysters do real well, so good company.
At Pacific Seafood, we expect ourselves to do business right, to lead by example, and to help out when we're needed. Those values help us to navigate our business in 3 distinctive areas of responsibility: sustainability, community, and self-governance. It is our company philosophy that guides our everyday decisions. It's good to be responsible not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it also sets the bar for our company's commitment to ensure that the communities in which we work and live will continue to prosper.